How we doing, guys? We're back. Wanted to dive into some more data and kind of talking about why we're in the situation that we're in our economy. So first things first, we all are kind of hungover from the COVID-19 money printing. So here we have the M2 money supply, which is essentially telling us how much money we have coming into supply. And as we know, COVID was around here, and we can see this dark line which indicates a recession. You can see the nice strong peak of let's kind of like go into, yeah, that's 2007. So here you could just see the large increase of the money supply and then the continuation of the money supply, right? But let's look at the next thing. So here we have consumer price index for all items, right? And at that same time of the money printing, you were starting to see prices come down and then this high spike and continuation spike of prices. Why? Well, because consumers have a lot more money to spend and they were willing to spend. And so now we're stuck in this situation of what I like to call we are hungover from all the money printing that we did in 2019. So we essentially had inflation here. Let's pull up another one. So we essentially had inflation of 7 to 9%. Whoops. And here, let me pull that up 1 second. So here we have the inflation since 1965. But once we kind of tune it in to say, let's go about here, which is 2017, you can see this large and continuous inflation peak, right? We were at an 8% in 2022, as I'm pretty sure everyone remembers when gas prices were ridiculously expensive. So let's go back to the Federal Reserve, because they're the ones that did all of this money printing. And now they are stuck in this thing where they have been mandated with two jobs, and that is to keep maximum job employment while also stabilizing inflation. So let's look at a few things, right? Here we have the unemployment rate. And as you can see, we are at almost an all-time low, right? 3.8%, right? We have in 2000 with the dot-com bubble, it was that low. And really we are doing okay. Let's kind of like zoom in to, focusing on 2020 when we had the money supply. This was kind of very COVID based. But then you could see it really start to decline and everything really stabilize. And that's really one of the reasons why our economy has been so good, is because people have jobs and people are able to keep continuing to spend money, right? So let's look at GDP. We have the real gross domestic product of our economy, and you can see over time our GDP grows. And this natural dip, which I believe is from COVID, here let's zoom it in, is now, here we are on our normal path. We get the dip and the recession, and then we go right back to our normal path. And so our economy is not really in danger of, having another recession, at least what the data is telling us. We have stable jobs, we have the money supply, we have the consumer price index. So, going back here, let's kind of zoom in more. It's, not stabilized here, but let's look at another one. So here we have the 5-year break-even inflation rate, which is essentially the market's expectation of when we are going to bring down inflation. So we have it at 2019. Here's our recession. And basically, the higher the number, the worse off. Basically, the market expects inflation to take much longer to get back to that break-even number here at the 0. So let's zoom out actually. So you can see this chart beginning in 14, right? This was a recession, right? That was indicating that we possibly, could go down to that good inflation rate, and then things just spiked, right? Coming out of COVID and all the money printing, everyone was like, prices are rising. Everyone was like, inflation is never going to come down, right? And then we kind of peaked out interest rates, right? We all saw in 2023, we had one of the highest interest rate hikes ever. So let's pull up what that looks like. So this is the federal funds rate, right? And we have, you could see, let's look at back here, 15, 7, 19% when people are getting mortgages at these high interest rates. And here we are in our nice low in federal funds rate era, and then COVID happens here. They cut interest rates to stimulate our economy. Zoom in. They cut the interest rates to stimulate our economy. They continuously stimulate all the way to 2022, although we had inflation just continuing to rise. So this little hike right here is probably, if we look, you can see, let's go back to 2008, right? So let's see here. So we want to look at, here, let's stretch it out. We want to look at what it was like in 2008. You can see they cut the interest rates to stimulate our economy in the recession, right? The dark circles meaning the recession. We have our nice time period where even though the federal funds rate was low, we were not facing that same inflation, right? Here's 2012. We can pull back here, which is our inflation here. Boom. We can see we had pretty stable inflation, right? Nice peak, but then we had the trend down, we had it go very low, and then of course the continuation, right? So having a low federal funds rate doesn't necessarily mean that inflation is on the corner, right? So here we can see this large spike of interest rates, this large tightening of our economy, right? And that really, you can see here, in the dot-com era, we were cutting interest rates and rising. We went from 1 to 5.25, right? We went from 0 to 5.25, essentially, 5.5, right? So we had this large tightening of the economy that we're now just hung over. We're still facing all of these data inflections, and everything just needs to continue on its pace, right? We need inflation to stay low. We need consumer prices to continue to go down. And we need inflation to stabilize. We really need this number to either take the dip or start leveling out. And so if you guys are wanting more information, reach out to me. We can dive way more into the data. And this is going to be pretty fun. I enjoyed this. Still getting the hang of it. But yeah, comment down below what you guys want to see next.